I was asked, I hope you guys are doing great. I was asked a wonderful question about, it was two-part. What's the most interesting places that the time on the bicycle has taken me? And then the second part of that, how did it change me? And I have spent days while I've been working trying to understand best how to answer that wonderful question. So, when I began being attacked by public servants, one of the thoughts that kept running through my head is embrace the hard. Whatever horrible hardship is coming my way, wrap your arms around it and embrace as much of it as you can without dying. And I think all too often, for instance, women are very apt to make this mistake. Everything about them is a lie, constantly telling everyone around them lies, trying to control an outcome. But the lies keep them from being seen, from being understood, from being valued. So their anxieties and depressions just go right through the roof. And rather than learning from that horrible feeling inside and being forced to let go of what is false, to let go of the lies that you're carrying, then they look externally for a pill from a pharmaceutical company to try to resolve it. And like taking a walk, listening to Mozart's Jupiter Symphony for 20 minutes, 5 days a week. Hell, start with 3, work your way to 5. It'll outperform every antidepressant ever made. We steal from ourselves when we take away the hardship. Like if you can just snap your fingers and be at the top of the mountain, then the sweetness of overcoming the first easy half of the battle, getting to the top, and then the harder part, coming back down safely, ends up being all denied. If you've spent any time ever wanting to have wisdom, patience, faith, then the hardship isn't a bug to be avoided. It's a feature. And it's not until, like, I embraced all sorts of hardships in my life. That's all practice. It's practice for when chaos, evil, tyranny shows up at your door and takes from you everything you love most. My American dream was to be a great father. My American dream was to make very deep roots into a community. And all of that was taken from me needlessly by criminals masked as public servants. So as that's happening, how am I going to lean into this? Well, you got to embrace the reality of where you are. If you have no rights to owning a land, no rights to owning a house, no rights to owning personal property, no rights to owning tools, no rights to travel, you can't drive, they take away all your licenses in the state, no rights to vote, no rights to see your own kids, then you're a slave. So, what's important about being a slave? Did you ever read Marcus Aurelius? I would frame it. Frederick Douglass. There's a great one. That having absolutely no control over your external forces you to go within and become peaceful and at ease with what you actually are. There was a great physicist, beautiful mind, and he became trapped in his body through a horrible disease. And he credited that experience by giving him wonderful insights. You can't know a world better than you know yourself. And fear and love are mutually exclusive. So when I tell myself a lie, fear and ego gain the ground, and they gain it at the expense of my kindness, my gratitude, my forgiveness, my rejoicing in truth. Wow, you mean it works that way? The goal isn't being right. The goal is getting giddy about getting closer to what is. Humility. These are the actions that define love. And like fear, they change most the people that spend time practicing them. So does a slave have a past? Yes. But from the point of the slave, it's just pain. It's the most horrific pain. It's so needless. It's so needless. Why would I value a society that doesn't allow me, that punishes me because I walked my kids to school? Why would I ever again value any aspect of society that's willing to teach somebody that they're free and that they're American and there's this great Constitution and we have heroes? And our heroes are heroes precisely because of their value of the United States Constitution. And yet, this is what's taking place in Ohio. Not Nazis, not Russians, not North Koreans. Public servants facing zero legal accountability, neighbors going to work and doing this to American families. You know what's murdered more military than all our wars? The crimes of domestic courts. And you know who has training and resources to help them manage life-threatening problems? Those vets. You know, it doesn't have any of that. Most dads. So what am I going to do? How am I going to embrace this art? And I thought, well, I should have an adventure in such a way that I couldn't, I like realistically speaking, a child wouldn't be able to come with you on that. Like live in such a way. Like I don't know what that at the time I didn't know what that meant. But since all the licenses were taken, I remember the lady on the phone. I was like, "You are obligating me to organize my neighbors and begin killing you, killing everybody in your office, and you want me to train on a bicycle for the privilege." If that's how you want to look at it, imagine like that. And that was on the back of like a county prosecutor. My kids were taken because of a rifle, not sworn in. I'm their primary caregiver. Like my job on my taxes was housewife. The hell's going on? We'd be happy to help you with your bill. And that's after like not calling them every day, not for weeks, for months. Your letters are ignored. Everything's ignored. They finally answered a Facebook post. Like shit like that'll drive you out of your mind. That's the slave's past. Now, if you want to get into the future, a slave is equally hosed. It won't work. It won't work. The only future for a slave is violence. That's the that's the only thing a slave needs so that a slave can be healthy. I was trying to help an AI understand that human beings can be obligated to be violent to be healthy. Like if you take any mammal and you abuse the kid in front of the father, what does that father mammal do? And that's the healthy ones. It's unhealthy for the father to do nothing. And one of the great things about the U.S. Constitution is it lays out the framework of what defines evil and tyranny. And it also hits on the moments that it induces a biological violence in a people when something tries to interrupt the individual's relationship with God. When somebody tries to interrupt the individual chasing truth and how they're trying to express that. When you interrupt the individual's ability to protect themselves, to own something, to own nothing is to be anchored by nothing. And to be anchored by nothing means you have no future. There is no future. Now, we can listen to hippies talking about how, dude, there's no past, man. There's no future. It's just the present, man. Or you can hear it being said by a Christian God. I am. He's present. It's in being present. So it was a miracle in that a beautiful family where this awesome friend of mine welcomed me in. And to be fair, I was blessed in that I had so many amazing friends open their home and be like, oh my God, get in here. Get in here, big guy. Get in here. And took me in. It was amazing. Like when It's a hard thing for a kid to understand how their parents not only don't love them, but hate them. And it's an equally hard thing to understand that from a wife. And so to be betrayed by not only a wife, to be betrayed by your parents, and then to be betrayed by all of society, it, while being biologically induced to violence. How do you manage that? And no one cares. I mean, yes, inviting into a home shows the caring, but it doesn't do anything to stop the criminal abuse of the kids. It doesn't stop or slow down the fact that the very next day, when all those asshats went to work, they did the same crimes to another group of family. So there is no future. There is no past for a slave. Now, the next dilemma comes is fear. Since you have nothing, where are you going to find refuge? And what I learned was by being present. And a fella that had just joined the Masonic Lodge in Hudson invited me into his home. And a friend from my youth had invited me into his home. And I was like, what a beautiful pairing. And I was used to doing over 80-hour work weeks. So I spent at least 40 hours with each of those families. And then I would get on a bicycle and I would ride into the abyss. I called it jumping into the abyss. If I can if I can have a project that I'm working on and you're focused on the project, it helps you to be present and at peace. And I needed a family around because love is defined by actions: kindness, humility, gratitude, rejoicing in truth, forgiveness. If if I can't be present in my child's life, then my child is being denied love. And the person you would, yes, it's horrible to the kids, but love changes most the individuals who spend the most time with it. So why would I ever want my kids to see me later as a result of having spent time practicing less love? So how you gonna do it? And when the whole world betrays you, it's easy to think, well, shit, then I'm the problem. It's me. And everything hurts. And I want the pain to stop. So it should be easy for the whole world to understand why the crimes of a domestic court drive addictions, why being thrown out of society so your kids can be criminally abused for the purposes of extortions, so that your kids can be used as a fiscal leverage to the state's debtors' prisons. Why killing yourself would seem such a reasonable out. And depression is fear. Sadness is fear. And so Since fear and love are self-fulfilling and they change most the people that practice it, what's the out? Where's the venue that's the out? And because I could see so clearly what was happening to myself and accepted it, I could see so clearly what was happening to somebody around me. But since I own nothing, since I had nothing, I did try to put together a bicycle and some kit for it. But like I would try to like the one person, oh, we're gonna get you paid, get you some money. You can rebuild everything. It's the point of rebuilding when the lesson that I learned was I own nothing. A slave just is going to keep choosing the delusion. It makes no sense. And not only does it make no sense, because I had some cash on me, I was drugged and mugged. You think the police help you? No. They pin a ticket on your chest for a jailable crime, never having once asked you any question. You were unconscious from drugs. You wake up, and now you got a ticket, and you're going to go to jail. Right? Because everybody knows. Everybody's quick to judge. There's no quicker person to judge than the coward, than the fearful. But when I was present riding on a bike, the beauty, it's so humble, it's so universal, it's so simple. There's magic that you'll run into. Unbelievable. No one would ever believe it. So I would try to find a new family. Like, how can I be of service to somebody else? Healthy priorities would state that I take care of myself, I take care of the spouse, the mother of my kids, I take care of my kids, now I'm ready for work. By society, my government attacking me and allowing all, not only allowing it, facilitating it and profiteering off the intentional destruction of it. Why would I ever give a shit about work? But as a human being, if I'm not working on something, then I'm not getting the benefit of that cheat code of being at peace. So what are you going to spend your time working on? And when I'd go out on ride in these loops, when the weather's bad, that would be when I headed out. You're not going to run into other people. Everybody, human beings notices differences. They notice change. They don't, if you've seen it a bunch of times, you don't pay attention to it. So on a sunny day, you're very likely to get hit on a bicycle. If you're riding in the middle of a snowstorm, nobody's ever seen that. It stands out. Everybody gives you a wide berth. Everybody gives you well wishes. God, I hope that guy's okay. Man, that's crazy. And I would end up finding people, I don't know how else to say it, that needed shepherding. They know how to make a fire. They know how to dry themselves. They don't know how to feed themselves in the woods. They were trying to get someplace. They didn't know how to get there. Most of the time, when people are cast from society, they spend a brief amount of time there and then find their way back. So I was trying to shepherd these people on their way back. And then in the process, I'd find a family that needed, like I knew exactly what they needed. And that's the gift. When you know what needs to be done, that's a gift. And so you should honor it. You should honor it. And because I wasn't asking for it, like, I like chocolate milk. A meal is nice. Somebody willing to pause and take you in is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But I'll be able to find my answer on whether or not I was the problem by treating everybody that I meet the same way that I was treating my wife and my kids. If that was the best version of love that I knew, then I should be offering it to everybody around me, because I'm not allowed to practice it with the people that I wanted to. So I didn't love Chris and his bride and his kids any differently than I loved my own. I didn't love Daryl and his kids and his wonderful bride any differently than I looked at my own family. And then I would do these leaps out into the abyss. And I've tried in my life to give more than I take. If you do that, you're not a burden. And no man wants to ever be a burden. So if you're not measuring things by ones and zeros and ducats, how you gonna meter yourself in such a way that you're not a burden to somebody? You go where you're invited. You give more than you take. So then I started just giving on to them as much as I could, and you'll create another problem. If I love you more than you love you, you will become emotionally dysregulated. And you get into Plato's parable of the cave. They'll attack you. So then I started developing some ideas of a boundary, that if there's a project, let's say Project A, if I do all of it, they have no appreciation, they have no value, they didn't participate enough to have any value, so I'm denying them the abilities to practice love through my own choice. And if I do none of it, or it turns out if you do less than a third of it, the people won't even notice you were there. It doesn't matter that you, like, the third that you did was the direction, the motivation, the guidance that they needed to make the journey. If you're present less than a third of that time for that experience, you don't exist. So what mix of how you give yourself are you going to take? And what I learned was, generally speaking, you want to be between 1/3 and 2/3. 1/3 and 2/3. And then I went from shepherding people who were lost and outside of society to shepherding people who were dying. That none of the stuff that they spent their whole life valuing and collecting had any meaning. How, like, my buddy Gary, he had a heart problem. He thinks he's in a rehab facility, and then he learns that he's in a nursing home, and all this stuff, like, the kids just got rid of all his stuff. He has a chair, and he's got this little bit of, he's got 2 pieces of furniture. Or you come from a very large and affluent family, so there's lots of people and lots of stuff. They didn't make lots of kids, so there's even more stuff as the people pass. And the kids are very modest and beautiful, they're so, those kids' homes are so overflowing with love. It's spectacular. But there's not a lot of square footage. So where are you going to put all the stuff? One of my friends in the beginning of it was like, dude, I'm trying to keep up with you. I never wanted to own more than I could fit in a pickup. And I mean, look at you. I was like, I'm not doing this because I'm a developed human being. I'm doing this because I'm a fucking slave and I'm being forced into it. But what I ended up learning later is the why doesn't matter. That when things are not within this context, if things aren't working out, the why doesn't matter, because you don't know what works. So spending more time in your mind running through what didn't work is just practicing more failure. It's not going to increase the likelihood that you actually embrace what does work. And since Pareto's principle seemingly applies to all things, like where's an atom in the solar system? It's in the sun. The next place you'll find it is Jupiter. If you're on Earth and you can't find the sun in Jupiter, well, shit, man. Like, you are really missing something obvious. So, to keep paying attention to the whys of the little bullshit of your air isn't going to help you see that sun. It isn't going to help you to be like, oh, thank God there's Jupiter. The So those acts of love can be present when the practitioner is present and not being fearful. So I was riding a bike and there was this guy came out of the woods riding pretty fast. Keep looking over his shoulder in fear. And so like I rode up on him, and at that point, like I was spending easy 100 miles a day in a saddle. And carrying about 30 to 40% my body weight. And so I came up on him real quick. And I was like, you okay? Do you need anything? And I started looking at his bike. I was like, everything working okay on your bike? Do you need something to drink? You need some food. And all I kept was, the more he was worried, the more I kept caring for him. What can I do to help you? And then he starts flagging off, like waving off something. I don't know what it is. And these two guys were being hunted by 4 other guys, all 6 of which haven't been involved in society for over a decade. And so the first guy was going to be bait so that then the other guy could ride up behind and just shoot him in the back of the head. And so he was trying to wave off his friend, and his friend was having tunnel vision because, you know, you got to have tunnel vision a bit to make the sights of a pistol work anyhow. So you're going to notice that blurry thing on the side. The sights of the pistol are in focus. So he's not even going to look the right place. And all of a sudden I hear him like, oh my God, you don't know how close. Oh my God, you don't know. Like, I don't know. But I could see that he was having like a chemically induced shock. He was in shock. He was distressed. He was going to crash. He was going to need some sugar. And so the first guy, he was like, no, I don't need anything. I'm good. He wanted to get the hell out of there. And I was like, listen, your brakes aren't working so good on your bike. Could we just take like 5 minutes and we'll fix them? And so filled up his water. I had a water filter because a lot of times these people haven't had access to clean water. They'll try to take it off somebody's house, but the people will hear them. Somebody sees them. So where are you getting clean water? So at some point you just embrace it. So hooked him up on his water bottles, fixed his brakes. He was off. The other guy finally was like realizing that he needed to eat something. And so I'm feeding, sharing what little food I have with him and hooking him up. And he he starts sharing with me that what he was trying to do, that he had tried to ride up behind me and to shoot me. And it was precisely, I would argue, because I was present, that I was present practicing love, that it wasn't allowed to take place. His gun jammed. And then the other place that I rode to that was amazing was I got on one of the roads and I decided I was going to ride it till it ends. And that road ended in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I got a lot of family that's from southern New Jersey. And I looked down the coast, and right there's Ocean City. And you can see the boardwalk. You can see like the best pizza you could ever have. A Pennsylvania Dutch birch beer. Oh, the funnel cakes with your grandparents. It was it, it was so present and so absent at the same time that the pain of it was just overwhelming. Now I rode from Ohio to there without any money, with only what I could carry with me. And so I'm sure I was calorie deficient, and I'm also certain that I was dehydrated. So managing feelings becomes very tough. So I almost didn't go. Well, why go there, man? That pizza's so expensive. I can't afford that. How's this going to work out? So I go down there and I bicycle up the ramp to one of the spots on the boardwalk. And right there is a guy with a big smile. And he's got a the big size of that pizza with a funnel cake right on top. And a large birch beer in his hand. And he wanted his family to have a beautiful evening and not worry about like eat as much as you want, so he got extra. Thanks. He got extra knowing that he could just walk out and give it away. And he's like, "Would you like this?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Where'd you ride from?" And I was like, "Ohio." He's like, "This state?" He's like, "Yeah." "Did you just get here?" It's like, "Yeah." "Dude, sit down." And then he sat and shared with me about his life. And you get to watch the most beautiful, happy, healthy family tree pouring out of that restaurant. And so I'm sitting there eating, and this old fella sits down next to me. And we start a conversation. And this old fella asks the most beautiful, insightful, amazing questions. And when I asked him where he learned it from, he had said, I was like, well, that's like very Indian of you right there. And he laughed and he's like, well, I traveled to India to try to get closer to God. And so, yeah. And he asked me if I wanted to go to a concert. Yeah, well, yeah, but I don't have any money. You don't need anything. Come on. And I was like, he's like, I'll put in will call. I was like, yeah, but I don't have an ID. Come with me. He's like, you came all the way down here in Ohio and you don't have money and you don't have an ID. I was like, everything was stolen by my government. What do you do? And so he walks me in And everybody there knew this guy. And that's when I learned that the person that I was chatting with was the lead. So crazy. It was the lead singer of the Beach Boys. Somebody who's given so much joy. Like my grandparents loved listening to that music. My parents loved listening to that music. I love listening to that music. And I had the most amazing evening. But what I've learned and gained most on my bike ride is how there's no greatest display of freedoms than to practice love. And if you can do that, kindness, humility, gratitude, forgiveness, rejoicing in truth, you will never have for want. Doesn't matter what direction you ride in. And so I never thought that it would take so many days as the courts committed so many abhorrent crimes and they put them as a court record. Why can't I get the police to do their job? Why can't I get the sheriff to do their job? Why can't I get any of these asshats to do their damn job? They'd all be a hero. They would bring an end to something. Like I was so excited once by this corrupt judge because here he is facing federal charges, and I'm handing him the grand slam so that he could clean up the county that his family trees lived in and served for 3 generations. But instead, that's not what he chose to do. Like when you practice something wrong your whole life, that's why you can't get it right at the end of your life. It's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking. So, if I was encouraging a youth to do this, you would need to first become masterful. You need to be able to help somebody. Do you know how to be an electrician? Do you know how to be a plumber? Do you know how to be a carpenter? Do you know how to be a framer? Do you know how to roof? Do you know how to do things? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to be present and work hard and give somebody your best? Because it's when you give somebody else your best freely that you start giving your best every day for yourself. And as soon as you start doing that, that's when you earn respect because you'll earn it from yourself. And for men, women suck at that. That's why the old Abrahamic religions, the woman's to give the husband respect. And a man, we suck at being loving to ourselves. We're not kind to ourselves. We're not humble to ourselves. We're not grateful to ourselves. We're sure shit not forgiving on ourselves. And so by practicing that endlessly with people that we love that are close to us, we get better at practicing it with ourselves. So I got a breakfast waiting for me. But I mean, there's so many. A kid from Tennessee to Canada, get him to family, a family that was beating him and starving him, to an aunt that nurtured and loved him. Like there's just so many. And like this, there's so many places that looked at me and took me in as part of their own. They don't look at me any differently than they look at any other family member. And when your own family betrays you and society betrays you, to be welcomed into an endless array of the bounty of American health and our freedoms and our health are based on and intertwined with the health of a family. So I guess what it taught me is the greatest display of freedoms that anybody could ever pursue. Like, ooh, what's the point of being free if not to be kind? If I'm a masterful warrior, what greater display of that could there be than being kind, humble? What need I of bragging? It just will build my ego and diminish the amount of love that I not only will practice, but that I'll be able to accept from another. Katie L. Liam Michael, I miss you and love you. To kids everywhere who've lost their dad, oh, I love you, kiddo. Know your love.